Hello and welcome back to Like Maria. Today we're going to look at Blake's poem London. We're going to explore the content and structure of that poem. So after today's session you'll be able to write an essay and talk about Blake's poem Just Like Maria. So in this poem Blake describes a walk around London. He uses the first person, I, and the present tense, and this makes us feel that we are walking with him. He says, I wander, I meet, I hear, and then describes all the things that he wants us to know about London. In particular, the people, the buildings, and the sounds. It's as if he is also describing a journey through life. He describes a range of people that he meets or observes. So, the infant, the soldier, the harlot, and perhaps people that are getting married. He talks about different stages of life, but all ones that are there in London and that Blake would have experienced on his frequent walks through London. Now, one of the key things about this poem is it is very tightly structured. It's organised into 4 stanzas. Each line of each stanza has roughly 8 syllables. And there is an alternating rhyme pattern. So we can see street, flow, meet, woe. That alternating rhyme runs throughout all the stanzas. This indicates that Blake is saying that he's trudging through London and that people have very monotonous lives, and that this is a universal experience, an experience that happens to many, many people. This feeling of this being a universal experience is enhanced also by the repetition that Blake uses. So words like chartered, mark, and every are repeated very frequently in this poem. And this gives us a sense that everybody experiences these things all the time. So Blake's point is that London is a place of misery and woe, and it pervades the whole city. We should also know that Blake here is criticising the government and criticising the way that the country is run. He was a poet very interested in the people of London and in getting them some help and some way of coping with their difficulties. So here Blake is describing all the difficulties that are present in London of the time. And to do this, he uses very horrible imagery, the imagery of blood and plague and blight, the imagery of darkness. It's at midnight when he's describing some of these things. So this is a very dark poem. It talks about woe and misery. And Blake is talking here about the bad state of conditions of life in London. And he wants to do something about them, or certainly he wants the government to do something about these. He also talks in that very famous quotation about mind-forged manacles. Now, manacles are chains and things that prevent people from progressing and capture people, keep people in captivity. These mind-forged manacles are something that Blake is suggesting are the construct of people's minds themselves, and perhaps their education or lack of it, that they have been told so often that they are in difficulty and in poor conditions, and they have limited their own thoughts. So here Blake is saying that often people get in such a poor state that they create chains for themselves. So Blake here presenting a rather negative view of London, and one that is monotonous and very distressing for many of London's inhabitants. So I hope today you've understood a little bit more about Blake's London and that you can read it now, just like Maria.